Gracias, Gloria. Good evening, everyone. Buenas tardes. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. My name is Mayra Alvarez, and I am the proud president of the Children's Partnership. We are honored to join our partners this evening for the second in our Let's Talk summer webinar series, gearing up for back to school. Really during this time of uncertainty due to COVID-19, a very tough economy and a reckoning with racism, we join with our partners to inform and empower our California families on crucial and timely issues that impact their well-being and that of their children. This series, it's presented every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. until September 3rd, and we offer information for families on health coverage, on using technology to access health services, mental health, and tonight on preparing to go back to school. We're fortunate to have with us a spectacular list of panelists to share information, tips, and resources to help families navigate this year's different back to school time. Because as challenging as this time is, we know we will get through anything when we work together. Thank you so much for being with us and for the love you share and the work you do every day to support children in California. To start us off this evening and introduce our special guest, I would like to re-invite Gloria Corral from the Parent Institute for Quality Education, our distinguished partner in tonight's webinar and in our shared work for families overall. Gloria?
Thank you so much, Mayra, and we are thrilled to begin this conversation with a message of hope and a message of strong support from our partner, from the Department of Education, Dr. Stephanie Gregson, who is the Chief Deputy Superintendent for our great state of California. Dr. Gregson?
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me. Buenas tardes, buenas noches, bienvenidos. So just thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Superintendent Thurman and I are partners as we work to support our students and families during this time and beyond. Everyone has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Along with educators, I know that parents and their students are experiencing high levels of stress from the disruption of daily lives and worries about their physical health. The last time the superintendent and I got to join this group was in May. We were in the middle of a rapid pivot to distance learning, and there were a lot of hard lessons learned during that time. In fact, this group, PK, put together some data at the time that was quite stark about the work we needed to do, including looking at more than 45% of our English learner families were not receiving support they needed, and that more than 50% of families did not know if their student is getting the needs met from their IEPs while in distance learning, and 1 in 3 parents did not have email addresses. More than a quarter of parents did not know if their student was turning in schoolwork. I personally was one of them with my 15-year-old daughter. While many students were receiving equipment necessary to participate in online classrooms, 21% were not. So we know that this time around, we must do better in distance learning. And doing better means more effectively and proactively engaging and supporting our families as we resume learning this school year. This is the very type of event designed to do so, and that I hope our schools will strive to emulate. Through continued investments, increased proactive family engagement, I am confident that our schools will reach and engage more students as we move through this challenging period together. Family engagement is first and foremost. Communication and proactive family engagement will be key to success in the short and long term. This is key to engaging students who are not checking in, connecting families to resources. In schools, we don't always make it easy for families to navigate our resources. We have so many acronyms. It's the ABC acronym world. And that's hard. It's the edu jargon, and that impacts the ability of our families to support student learning. I want our schools to designate liaisons who can help support families and walk them through the many things you're going to be learning tonight. I applaud all of our families who are here tonight, and I call on you to be an ambassador for your school community and to take back what you learn. I also urge you to be kind to yourself and take it one day at a time. This is not easy, and there's no playbook for the times we're in. At the Department of Education, our state superintendent has made several things priorities. And some of our priorities to support success in distance learning include our digital divide. More than 73,000 computing devices and over 100,000 hotspots have been delivered to hundreds of school districts statewide, with a priority on rural communities. The state superintendent has been working with the Digital Divide Task Force, and internet service providers have opened up their hotspots for public access and now have dedicated staff who can more quickly resolve problems with accessing low-income services. All of our parents should know that California schools are receiving $5.3 billion to acquire devices, strengthen distance learning, and address learning gaps. If not having a computing device or internet access is an issue, I encourage every parent participating in this webinar to contact their local school to find out what resources are available. We must prioritize relationships and social emotional connections during these first days of distance learning and beyond, just like when we're in the classroom, but those connections are even harder under these circumstances. That is not only additionally challenging in virtual learning, but also in the trauma exacerbated by this pandemic. Right now, we're currently experiencing pandemic and fires, and this is hard. The superintendent has formed a counseling coalition of leaders throughout the state to help corral resources to fill in gaps in how we're serving our students. The Department of Education has also updated their guidance around distance learning practices, because distance learning will be with us in some form moving forward, even as some schools may be allowed to begin reopening in some forms. The Department of Education will be issuing updated guidance on an almost weekly, monthly basis to ensure that we're providing the most current research on best practices and guidance for our schools to provide the best experience for our students and families during this time. Additionally, the department will continue to provide assistance to our local education agencies, which are school districts and charter schools, meeting the unique needs of students with disabilities, students learning English, and other vulnerable student populations. And that brings me to those families, to the parents that are participating in this webinar. Many parents, many of you, are struggling right now. My message to you is this: don't be too hard on yourself as you navigate work and distance learning for your children. Reach out and talk to your children's teachers, talk to each other, support each other, and do not become isolated. This pandemic is a once-in-a-lifetime event. To be honest, I hope this entire year is a once-in-a-lifetime event. We're now dealing, like I said, with wildfires and power outages, and as our children resume their studies. We will get through this difficult time. The important thing is to stay healthy, not only physically, but mentally as well. Stay engaged with your children's learning and realize that you are not alone. We all want our children back in the classroom. I have a young daughter and a son who's starting college this year, hopefully. And I know how hard this is. And class is difficult. It looks very different, but it's the best place for them to learn and grow. No one is working harder than your teachers right now. They are learning new technologies, engaging in educator trainings, and putting in the work to reach our students. There will continue to be trial and error, but that doesn't mean there won't be rigor. I would also say this to parents: we are here. We hear you. Our public school teachers and educators are committed to reaching all of our students, to reaching your student. Again, health and safety are priorities, and please, if you lack a computing device or internet connectivity, contact your local school district. They have the resources to help you. So with that, please take care, stay safe, and stay healthy. And remember, we are always stronger together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gregson, for not just the support and the leadership, but also I think for the opportunity to really put families in the center of this really challenging time, and making families and caretakers really a top priority for you, for the department, for the superintendent. Thank you so much for your leadership, and we look forward to continuing the conversation and continuing to inform both policy and advocacy, but importantly, instruction in the classroom. Thank you so much, Dr. Gregson.
Thank you. We are happy to be your partners. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. So thank you. Based on that, we will now transition really for a packed panelist panel conversation. We will be having Dr. Burciaga, a high school principal, Maestra Escamilla, a teacher, an elementary school teacher. We will also talk with you about childcare from our dear friend, Nancy Maldonado from Chicano Federation, digital literacy supports from everyone on, and then talk with you about the census and the importance of the census. However, we wanted to start, next slide, with all the new terminology that you are going to hear and have started to hear, because this is new for all of us. And so the first set of kind of new vocabulary words that I'm sure you've been hearing about is remote learning, distance learning, online learning. What does it mean? And in essence, all that means is that kids are not in a classroom as they had traditionally been. And this really means that they are physically physically separated from their teachers during instruction. We will, there are many formats, and we will talk a little bit more about those. Students may, for instance, in an online learning environment, may be asked to log in to a particular platform. In other instances, distance learning or remote learning could mean that they pick up packets from schools. And so we'll go into more detail into the various opportunities, especially and around technology and what that means with our friend Norma from Everyone On. The next set of words and vocabulary to add to your arsenal are synchronous and asynchronous. While these words have been in the education policy landscape and in the research, what that means for us as parents, and I have two young kids, a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, I have to tell you, this is the first time I've been hearing these used as much as they have been. Synchronous simply means that it happens live with a person at a set time. So synchronous instruction means the teacher or the instructor will be on a video format in or on a phone with the student at a particular time. Asynchronous means that it's not live, that it is not at a set time, and so that instruction can happen basically on demand whenever the student or the parent accesses this. And so it is not live instruction. And so it could be a pre-recorded video or an online exam or other platform. So the next set of words and vocabulary are hybrid and blended. So next slide. These words have really been used to convey that there's a combination, some potentially in person, while other parts of the instruction may be done remotely, whether that's distance or online. So that's what hybrid and blended mean. So what Wi-Fi and hotspot. So here, this is actually, Wi-Fi means how you are able to get onto a website without cables. This is what this means. While a hotspot is a device or a physical location. For instance, a library, a coffee shop that provides internet connection via your phone or your computer or a laptop so that you can access the internet. Your phone, many of your phones actually have the feature to create a hotspot through the phone. However, as Dr. Gregson said, a lot of schools are actually providing hotspot devices so that families who do not have internet access at home can actually use the hotspot to create internet connectivity. And I'm sure Norma will talk a little bit more about that as a partner from Everyone On. The next word we wanted to highlight is URL. That's in essence the address. So when someone says, here's the URL, they are telling you, this is the address that you would go to in order for you to access a particular page. You'll see here a couple of illustrations, and these URLs can be sent via text, via email, and they will take you directly to that page. Next slide. One of the things that we all have experienced after 4 months, almost 6 months of the pandemic, is that it is really important how we get information about the various resources. And so while it might feel like everything is online, because it is, going somewhere in person is challenging, we're hoping to open some doors so that your phone can be that portal. We will share with you some examples. So the next slide will show you some community websites that will provide resources available to you and your families. Here's an example of the Children's Partnership that really talk about different issue areas. Here's our BICA website, which also provides information about multiple resources. Our families, many of our families tell us that they use Facebook very regularly. And so if you are using Facebook, we will urge you to use that also as a platform for getting information and following particular organizations that can really support your child's learning. Next slide. One of the many resources that we want to highlight with you is that, for instance, our 211 community resource that can be a phone call, a traditional phone call, and they also have a website that you can access. When you dial 211, you are linked to a person, someone picks up, and they can help you navigate and assess the needs that you have, and then refer you to the best resource in the community and or in government in the county that you live. Finally, we really believe in supporting networks and sharing resources. So just like we're doing here, we encourage you to share amongst each other, share with your families, with your neighbors, and that the information that you find helpful, you can go back to as a resource and continue to go back to those key places. We are continuing, so many of us here on this panel today are continuing to build our respective resource pages in order to be responsive to the needs and the issues as we continue to emerge and adapt in this emerging crisis. So let's help each other out. If there are great resources, reach out to those community-based organizations, to the schools, so that they can then also share with other families and other parents. So those are a lot of words. That's new content, and we hope that you found that useful. Like I said, we will be sharing that with you in the future as well. But now we will transition to a conversation with a dear colleague, a dear friend, Dr. Manuel Burciaga, who has been an educator for over 20 years. He began his career in Idaho as a teacher and has spent the last 18 years in Covina Valley Unified School District as a teacher, as a dean of students, an assistant principal, and currently as a principal of Northview High School. His doctorate is in something really important, and I just can't. He will tell us about it if he wants to. But he is his dissertation is from USC. So Dr. Burciaga will be talking with us about what do we as parents, what are those key questions we should be thinking about as we engage in a dialogue with our principals. Dr. Burciaga, I'll turn it over to you.
Un placer, buenas tardes. Muchas gracias por tenerme aquí y saludos a todos los padres. Thank you so much for having me here today, Gloria. It's a pleasure to be here with all of these parents and these panelists for very important to give resources to our communities and so forth. As she said, I'm a principal, high school principal, and I'm a week in to the first week of school of 2020-2021. It seemed that it wasn't going to get here, but here we are. I will lie and say everything was smooth. It wasn't, but we are adjusting. Our families are adjusting. Our students are adjusting, and so is our staff. So we're happy to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Burciaga. I think one of the things that we wanted to really talk to you about are what are those key questions that you think are critical for families to be thinking about as they make the first move and talk and are proactive about ensuring that they know what kinds of resources are available, also how best to communicate and get the appropriate information to support their child's learning.
Yes, very, very good. I'll go over 5 questions that we have gotten from our community. We have gotten from most of our parents, but the main question, so I won't go too long and long-winded, is the very first question is, how and with who do I contact for any school questions regarding a variety of things, to the simplest attendance, registration, classes, schedules, what's going on with college applications this year. Me being a high school principal, we have juniors and seniors that are planning on going to university, and what do? We'll be there. What are we going to do with tech questions, right? Is there anyone that speaks Spanish? I have about 85% of my families are Spanish speaking, and they want to know. They want to know who can I talk to there. And most of the interesting conversations that I have with parents are over the phone. They don't do email. They don't want to go on the website. They don't want to go on social media. Maybe Facebook. Facebook is a lot more popular with some of our parents, but they want to come in. And I think communication is the most important thing. When was the first day of school? When do we register? When do we pick up textbooks? It's so important because guess what? A lot of our families are working, are struggling to make ends meet. We have high school students that are not only being students themselves, but they are guiding their younger siblings into distance learning as well. So we have to communicate and make sure that we're all on the same page. So communication is important, and we need to, as schools, let them know that don't be shy. We're here for you. English, Spanish, whatever it is, we are here for you, and we will communicate. Question number 2, okay? What is this so-called virtual instruction going to look like? What does this look like? And I think for a lot of parents, including myself, is I need to know the schedule. What time do they start? How many classes are they taking? How much instruction are they getting per period? And the most important thing of all, how much homework are they getting? What kind of assignments are they getting? And you know, it's interesting because we know that high school students have electives, correct? And what are you going to do for woodshop? What are you going to do for sports medicine? How am I? And so these are the type of things that, oh my goodness, we need to figure out. And we are doing a better job of ordering supplies. And no joke, today we had not only a textbook distribution, but a supply distribution, you know, for some of our students and letting them know that, hey, stuff is coming in for art supplies and you will be doing some projects at home. But it's certain things that we never really thought about. With all this technology, there's still a lot of hands-on things. Now, number 3, what technology resources does the school provide? And we talked about my dissertation. My dissertation at the University of Southern California was on one-to-one device distribution and implementation, right? It's easier said than done. We've been very fortunate that our district is about 4 years here at Camino Valley with one-to-one with all of our kids having Chromebooks. But even then, some of our kids, the digital divide is real. The digital divide is real. And hotspots, we're offering hotspots. We're working with local cable companies to try to help us out. We are trying to do whatever it takes because it's difficult. And one of the main things, the message as an administrator going out to our teachers is we are being compassionate with teachers that are teaching from home with their own kids. So please be compassionate with our students as well. If they can't get on because of a technology issue, let us know. Please don't mark them absent. Please don't, late work, and so forth. Because if we can all be compassionate with each other, we can definitely be compassionate with our community. So moving on to question number 4, are students and parents receiving updates and communications regularly? And what does that look like? We've talked about how parents don't do email, right? But kids do. And so we decided as a school, as a district, to go ahead and empower our student body. And for the first time ever, give them their own Google email, their Gmail, right? And that has been working out because they feel empowered. The communication is there. But that is something that's any school administrator is going to need to keep in touch with their community and their students. I'm sending videos out, what we call the Northview News Flash every Friday, right? And they're gonna see my mug, on social media. Excuse me, it's getting dark here. Lights are getting out, hold on, there we go. And just for the basic information, we are having a back to school night, right? The so-called open house where parents come and visit. Guess what? We're gonna have to do it with either a Facebook Live or a YouTube Live format. And I need to explain that to them. And so we need to be creative, think outside of the box, and think about what's going on with our families. And so then the last thing that's very important is how are we supporting families with meal distribution during a school year? We have a lot of free and reduced families. We have to make sure that we are doing it with the right protocol. And so that has been something of an organizational, how can I say, challenge? It really has. But we're out there. We have essential workers. When I say essential workers, us, cafeteria workers, campus supervisors, doing things that is not part of the job description, but it is because the job description is to give our communities every resource possible, right? We got into education to be able to help our communities. And it's not just by teaching, it's not just by taking care of our campus. And so we're going above and beyond to make this happen. And the last thing I will say, because I don't know what my timeline is here, we need to be prepared because guess what? Like you said, hybrid learning is coming. This is not going to be forever. Hybrid learning is coming. And hopefully sooner than later, we will have everyone on campus and we cannot wait for that day. And so we are just so excited that we're gonna get through this. And I wanna thank everyone for listening. And all these parents that are here tonight, it's because they want what's best for their students. So saludos y seguimos adelante. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Dr. Burciaga. Your enthusiasm, your commitment to children and their families and thinking about how best to serve in this moment is really inspirational. And it's a wonderful way to welcome yet another inspirational leader, our state superintendent for public instruction and one of the fiercest education equity advocates in the state and in the country. Superintendent Thurman, thank you so much for joining us. It's wonderful to see you. Please, we're anxious to hear what you have to say tonight to our families.
Buenos tardes. I don't know that you all should be anxious. I'm anxious and sorry to be joining you late. Statewide travel and other circumstances, but I'm honored to be able to just offer greetings to the families that are participating in this back to school event, and thank PK and the Children's Trust programs and just so many others. Thank you, Principal Burciaga, for your remarks. I was able to catch the tail end, and you are correct that online learning is going to be with us for a long time, in part because of the pandemic. And I believe that it will push us to continue conversations about how we measure learning, which means that we will probably see some form of online learning. Let me first say thank you to the Chief Deputy Superintendent at the California Department of Education, a great champion, great educator, Dr. Stephanie Gregson, who filled in for me. Thank you, Dr. Gregson. At this point, I probably shouldn't say much more. I'm sure she's told you all the great things that we're working on. And, I don't want to mess it up by saying any more. I would like to say this, Gloria, that I want to thank PK. I don't know if you know this, but we have been talking about parent engagement as the sort of special sauce and the solution for making distance learning a better experience for all of our students. You and I and others met probably 2 months ago. We've been talking about parent engagement every day since, and we're grateful that there are some foundations that are helping us build our own capacity to help school districts do a better job at parent engagement. And so I'm sure that Dr. Gregson mentioned it. We're going to be asking school districts to have hotlines where parents can call when they can't get access to something that they need help with, or they have a question, or they just need support. We're going to have robust conversations about how to improve special education through distance learning. We're going to have deep conversations about how we support English learners and African-American students and free and reduced lunch students, students who haven't even checked in. We're going to be having deep conversations about that. And I just have to say, PK helped to make this whole conversation happen. Gloria, you provoked me. I mean, you facilitated us to this place of recognizing how important it is for school districts to lean in all the way if we're going to make this work. As so many have said, there's nothing more important than in-person instruction for our students, to see their teachers, to see their one-on-one aides, but this is the best that we have at this time to keep everyone safe. Our top priority is safety. Then we follow up with social emotional learning, continuing to talk about learning continuity. It's not the same as school as we know it, but students are always learning, and they deserve the right to have an education that supports their learning, even in these challenging environment. And so I'll leave it at that. I just want to say it was so important to me. I was so afraid I'd get on and they say the lights have been turned off, the doors have been closed. I said, if that's the case, I'll come in, I'll sweep up, I'll close the windows, you tell me what to do. I'm just so glad to be a part of this back to school event, and thank you for the incredible work that PK is leading.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. We know the conversations are tough, but if anybody wants a champion on their side, we have you. And we know that with our continued conversations, we look forward to continuing and furthering our partnership. But we know that unquestionably, our families are top of mind, and our children are top of mind in your decision-making and Dr. Gregson's ability to really carry the conversation forward. So thank you for your participation. We will transition to our second panelist, who has, in her own right, established quite a bit of knowledge and expertise as a dual language instructor, elementary school teacher, Miss Maestra Hilda Escamilla, who has been in the forefront of thinking and innovating to ensure that the children and families that she serves as a bilingual educator can really benefit and have access to high quality instruction. So Maestra Escamilla, we are excited that you are here. We are thrilled that you can also kind of share with us, from your perspective, what are those important questions that parents and caretakers should be thinking and asking you as a teacher, or asking teachers as they think about supporting their children's transition back to school?
Well, thank you so much, Gloria, for inviting me to join you tonight with this phenomenal webinar presentation and with these fabulous group of people. And to everyone else, thank you for joining us tonight. Once again, my name is Ilis Camilla. I am a second grade dual immersion teacher in the Chula Vista Elementary School District. Unlike Dr. Burciaga, we, the teachers, start next week, so we still have a few days off, and then our students start on the 31st. I'm excited to start, so I'm hoping that we'll have a smooth beginning and back to school. But in the meantime, here are 5 very important questions that you should be asking your child's teacher. Number 1, you want to ask, how often will you be meeting with my child? You want to know for how long your child's teacher will be meeting with the students and your child. Will the teacher meet with them daily, once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times a week? You want to make sure you know how often your child will see the teacher, either synchronously or asynchronously. You want to know how often and for how long the teacher will be meeting with your child, specifically, especially if they are an English language learner, if they have an IEP, and or is a special needs student. And then also, please keep in mind that the teacher will have a class schedule and should be sharing that with you and your child, and of course, the rest of the students. Question number 2, how will you meet the needs of my child online? Since here in California, the majority of our students will start remotely, you want to make sure that you know how your child's educational needs will be met. Will the teacher meet with your child whole group, in small group, or one-to-one, or all of those? If your child has an IEP, you want to ask how many teachers will your child be working with and for how long? If they have an instructional aid, that aid will also be in place. So you want to make sure that you know, okay, so how many teachers will my child be meeting with? Your child's minutes will be included in the total amount that they should be getting daily. And so make sure to be in constant communication with your teacher, especially if your child needs that extra support. Question number 3, how can I as a parent help my child at home? So you want to please, please, please make sure that your child attends their classes. It is so important. Please don't be late and try to avoid any unnecessary absences. I know they've been sleeping in a little bit, so you want to make sure that they're there on time. Remember, I know this is redundant and repetitive, but if they miss school, they're gonna miss out. And since it's gonna be a shorter amount of time that they're gonna be online, you wanna make sure that they are there, that they are present. Make sure also that you designate a special area for your child to work and or study. If it's a quiet little corner, if it's in the bathroom, close the door. It doesn't matter where it is, as long as it's a place where they know is sacred for them to study, to be in class. And then also ask your child questions about what they're learning. You want to make sure you're in the loop so that if you have any questions, you can ask them as well. Encourage them to practice what they've learned as well. So don't just have them show up and then that's it. So you want to make sure that you encourage them to follow up, to do their work asynchronously, because there will be a lot of that as well. Question number 4. So I don't speak English. What can I do to help my child? Very common here in California, or in a lot of parts here in our nation. It's okay if you don't speak Spanish. I myself is a second language learner, and my parents did not speak English as I grew up. So what can you do? You want to make sure that you encourage, that you motivate, and that you support your child. You can also use those translating programs online, like Google Translate, if you don't understand any instructor. There are so many online that you can use them. You can also ask another parent in your child's class. If you happen to know your child's friend, you can ask the parent to help you out. And then the new thing going on right now is if you have pods where a couple of families meet and then they do the work together. Like in my case, because I'm a dual immersion teacher, I'm gonna have several parents who don't speak Spanish. And so if they team up with a parent, a Spanish-speaking parent and a bilingual parent, and so on and so forth, they can help one another to translate and support one another. So even if you don't speak English, you can always ask for help. Question number 5, what if my child falls further behind academically? Well, this may happen because they have been out for a while. However, it is very important that you encourage your child to participate. Also, please make sure to reach out to your child's teacher to see if there is any additional tasks that may help them make some growth. So I cannot, above else, I cannot stress enough how extremely important it is that you communicate with your child's teacher, especially if you have any concerns or any questions or any wonderings. Please make an effort to have that open line of communication with the school, with your child's teacher, and of course with your child. These are unprecedented times and we have to make the best of what we've got, so try your best. And remember, your child will be okay and they're not alone. Your teachers are there for them. I will make every effort to be there for my kiddos, and I love them all as my own. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Maestra Escamilla. It's wonderful to see not just your commitment and your passion and dedication to children, but importantly to the families, because children learn and are supported. And this creates a new partnership between a very important and strong partnership, but a different kind of partnership where now that because of the pandemic, we are now ensuring that there is a transition both at the home and at the school. So thank you so much for your wise words. And now we will transition, as we know that going to school means different things to different people. One of the critical components of the well-being of a child and the well-being of the family is their ability to work. And here to talk to us about how best families can access childcare and other resources is my dear friend, Nancy Maldonado, Chief Executive Officer at Chicano Federation. Welcome, Nancy.
Hi, thank you. And thank you for inviting me to speak today. So, you know, Chicano Federation is a little bit unique in the sense that we support not just families, but we also support childcare providers throughout the county, throughout San Diego County. And so, you know, as you know, childcare providers have remained open throughout this entire pandemic. And really, I just wanted to open by saying, you know, if we do have any childcare providers that are listening, to giving them all the credit for remaining open, for taking care of the children of our essential workforce, and for making sure that what little of our economy was able to be sustained was. They're really just unsung heroes throughout this pandemic. So really want to just recognize them and want to recognize all of the agencies that support family childcare and childcare across the county. So one of the questions that you know we get often is really what resources are available for essential workers, particularly. So here in San Diego County, we were really fortunate to have the county allocate resources that go directly to essential workers, and in the sense of giving them vouchers to be able to get childcare. So if there are any essential workers that are still in need of childcare, that is something that is available to them. And you know, in San Diego County, we're really fortunate to have really strong organizations to support childcare. And recently, actually today, was just announced that there's another $25 million of CARES money that's going to go directly to support family childcare homes. Because as we all know, until schools open, we're really going to rely heavily on our family childcare homes and our childcare providers. Some other resources that are available locally, you know, our partners at the YMCA, they offer day camps, you know, for families that are working and need somewhere to send their children. And obviously they're taking all the precautions necessary to make sure that children are able to stay safe while their parents are working. And we, on the slide deck that is up, we've included a couple of different links for different resources if you are here locally in San Diego County that are available to you if you need childcare or need to know what you can do to find additional resources for childcare. Next slide. There we go. And so there, in terms of needing childcare, if you are an essential worker, CDA is still offering childcare assistance to those who qualify. So if you are an essential worker, please be sure to take care of that, or to take advantage of that resource. And the other thing that I would say is to contact us. We're here to support you. And if you are local in San Diego County, if there's anything that we can do to help connect you to another organization who is offering childcare or anything related to childcare, please contact us. The information is on there. We've also included the links to a couple of our partners, including YMCA and CDA, so that you can get more information. But if you aren't sure where to start, definitely contact us. We're a resource that's here to help anyone, even if they're you're not a family that's in our network or in any of our programs. We're definitely here to provide any information that we can. Another question that we also get is, how can we support providers and distance learning? So one of the things that we, when we're talking to providers, they're equally as nervous as we all are going into this distance learning, particularly because providers are having to care for children that are different ages and at different levels and at different schools. So one of the things that we would want to encourage parents to do if you are using a family childcare home or a childcare is, keep an open mind, being flexible, and definitely being patient with your providers. They're juggling a lot, just like all of us. And advice to parents is to set aside some time for you and your child to spend on distance learning, reviewing materials, and to the extent that you can, being involved and supportive of the child while embarking on the new challenges of distance learning, but also staying in constant communication with the provider. The childcare providers are doing, the absolute best that they can, and like I said, trying to juggle different children, different learning styles. And it's also important, obviously, as we all know, to know your child's cues and letting them go at their own pace, working with the teachers on alternative activities. If distance learning isn't working for your child, there are alternative activities, and make sure that you know what those are, ask those questions. Here locally, San Diego County Office of Education has a partnership with KPBS where they have combined a broadcast that's available to children who are TK through 12th grade. So, knowing what those resources are and that are available to you. So again, we've included another useful link that can help to support that online learning and any questions that you have about how to support your child's online learning, especially if they are going to be in childcare. There we go. So another question that we get is about concerns about safety during COVID-19 and what providers are doing to ensure that your children are going to be safe in childcare. So providers have to abide by a whole set of regulations. Including, daily surveys and temperature checks and screenings. So really, as a parent, you can ask about what the safety protocols are, but know that family childcare homes and childcare providers are having to abide by very strict regulations, and keeping your children safe is an absolute priority to them. Wearing masks, using hand sanitizers. I think it's also important to point out to parents that this isn't a time where you can kind of walk your child into a daycare and hang out and say goodbye. That's something that I had the privilege of doing when my son was little, and this just isn't a time where we're able to do that as parents, and being understanding of that, right? That everybody's safety is of the utmost priority, and so that it's going to be a little bit different during this time, and the ability to kind of interact with your child or walk into the childcare home is different. So obviously safety is a concern to a lot of the parents that we work with. So in here, obviously we can't go through them all for the sake of time, but we've included a couple of links. One of them is, you know, the childcare licensing, what childcare providers have to abide by and how they have to keep their family childcare home safe. So, you know, feel free to go on there to you know, learn about what the protocols are. And again, if you have any questions, you know, we're always here to answer those. We have also included a link from the Office of Head Start that includes tips for keeping infants and toddlers safe at home, and then, you know, different ways that parents can support their child's development at home, and also how to promote learning within the home environment using stuff that you already have at home. And so I think I'll just, you know, end by echoing a lot of the sentiments that have already been expressed, and that just being patient with yourself and with your child. And if you are, you know, utilizing a family childcare home or sending your child to childcare, understanding that your childcare provider is also juggling a lot. And so being very patient and understanding with them as well during this time, that's this very difficult time for everybody.
Thank you so much, Nancy. It is clearly because of backbone organizations and trusted messengers and trusted partners in the community, like the Chicano Federation, that families have been able to navigate this just challenging time. And as we think about childcare as part and parcel of the well-being of children and families, we look to you and the leadership that you have taken on really as to support and guide conversations and support families through that process. So thank you so much for your leadership. We will now transition to having a dear friend and partner for Everyone On. Norma Fernandez is the CEO of Everyone On. We've always known that digital literacy and digital equity have been important, and now those of us who did not know that now understand it. And the mission of Everyone On is to create social and economic opportunity, connecting low-income families to affordable internet services and computers, and supporting digital literacy training. So with that, thank you so much, Norma, for being here. You have always been a part of this conversation, and your voice and your talent in this mix is critically important.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you for having us tonight. We are happy to be here with you all and just sharing critical resources, especially when it comes to internet access, computers, and also finding out how you as a parent can improve your digital literacy skills. I won't talk too much about Everyone On because Gloria, you said you did such a great job describing our mission, probably better than me, so thank you so much. But I do want to give you a little context. We are a national organization, and we have been dedicated to eliminating the digital divide since 2012. And in fact, there have been a lot of organizations here in California, actually, that have been attempting to address this digital divide because it has been deep, and it has predominantly affected, unfortunately, Black and Brown communities, our Latino communities. And so that's why our mission is really about helping folks get connected to affordable internet solutions, affordable computers, and also increasingly delivering digital literacy trainings. And I will tell you, because of COVID-19, we have shifted to deliver these trainings in a virtual format, given that we can't convene with people in person. But we want to make sure that folks still have the opportunity to learn the critical basic computer skills to help them navigate the internet. As you might tell, we really believe internet access and digital literacy are among the most critical social justice issues of our time. I think you all know that too. Without having access to these tools, without digital skills, families, and in particular low-income families, are at a critical disadvantage. And certainly before the pandemic, the digital divide and the digital skills gaps were present, but the pandemic certainly made it worse on all fronts, right? Because when we don't have access to these tools, when we don't have digital literacy skills, that means we're missing out on opportunities to communicate with teachers, with our doctors, to sign up for critical services online, you name it. This is why we're really committed to this mission, which is to create digital equity for all. And that's why we're thrilled to be here with you all to share some additional resources with you. Every day, as you can imagine, given the work that we do, we address questions from parents, from nonprofit partners, from schools, and many other organizations asking us, where can I find low-cost internet options and computers for myself or the students that I help serve? So I'm happy to share the following resources with you. And one is, in fact, lives on our website, everyoneon.org. So we definitely encourage everyone to visit this site. On this website, you will find that we have aggregated low-cost options across the country, including here in California. And by following 3 easy steps, the first one, entering your zip code, which you see here at the bottom, that's the first step that you take. You enter your zip code. The next step is to answer one eligibility question. We ask this question because many of the internet service providers that have low-cost options do require you to verify your low income. So you're asked to select whether perhaps you have a student that receives National School Lunch Program or participates in the National School Lunch Program. Maybe you or someone in your household receives food stamps or EBT or CalFresh. Or maybe someone in your family participates in SSI. And so we ask you that question, you select one or a few, whichever applies to you. And after you enter your zip code and answer that question, we show you which low-cost internet option is available in your respective zip code. And we show you all the details, for example, the cost, what the application process is. And so it's a helpful tool, not only for parents, but for school administrators, teachers, nonprofits that are working with parents that are looking for low-cost internet service options. We also actually feature a few laptops and desktops because we know that it's critical to ensure that almost every person in the household has a device, right? As parents are probably now experiencing, while it's been great that students have additional support from their school, we know that sometimes service could slow down. Or that one computer is not enough for maybe 2-3 kids and adults in the household, which is why we think making sure that parents have access beyond the hotspot at home is critical, and that you have more than one functioning computer at home. So with that, if you don't mind flipping to the other slide, I actually want to walk you through very quickly some of the options that exist in California. Please keep in mind that not all of these are going to be available in your respective community, right? So which is why we invite you to visit our tool on everyoneon.org so that you could enter your zip code and see which one may be available in your community. Access from AT&T, you may already be familiar with this one. It's $10 a month for anyone that meets this criteria listed on the left, which is pretty wide. The application process is fairly easy. You could do it online. You could upload a picture of any one of these, your SNAP card, SSI card, or you could also just call in the customer service line, and they do have a line that's responsive to multiple languages, and request an application to be mailed to you. And then you could simply fill it out and return it with the verification documentation to AT&T. Next slide. The other option that you may be familiar with is Spectrum Internet Assist. They also have a low-cost option. Spectrum actually has one of the highest speeds. And so if you are a household that maybe you're just operating on your personal hotspot through your smartphone, or maybe the one that the school district gave you, and you're feeling that pain, which we all do, that service is slow because all of you are using multiple devices, and I highly encourage you to sign up for one of these because it'll provide you that extra bandwidth and speed that you need to support all the technology activity that's happening at home. So Spectrum has one of the greatest. Next slide. Human IT is one of our partners. They're also a nonprofit, and they actually provide hotspots to families at a low cost. So perhaps you can't purchase a hotspot from one of the bigger providers. Human IT provides low-cost monthly rates for families. The hotspots work on the Sprint network, also provide excellent speeds, and you could connect anywhere between 8 to 10 devices or computers or laptops to the hotspot. Next slide. And then there's Internet Essentials from Comcast. So some of you may be in Comcast territory. Know that there is a low-cost option as well. As long as you meet any one of the criteria listed here on the screen on the left, you're eligible. Also excellent service. Many, if not all of these providers, when the pandemic struck, did start offering 2 months of free service for new customers. And so if you had never had service with any one of these, you were in a position and maybe still be in a position, I think Comcast has extended their offer through the end of this year to receive at least 2 months of free service and then go ahead and transition to their low cost product. One thing I do want to share, because it's a challenge that we heard and continue to hear a lot from families, and it's very unfortunate, that because many of these providers did offer 2 months of free service for new customers, they were promoting it, schools were promoting it, nonprofits were promoting it. And as a result, families were calling these providers, but they were calling the general customer service line, which meant that they were, even though they were signing up for the 2 months of free service, at the end of the day, what they were really signing up for was a market rate product. So if you're one of those families, urge you to call back these providers and say, I want to make sure I actually signed up for the low cost product and not the market rate product, so that when your 2 months of free service ends, you could transition to the low cost option. Otherwise, you might find yourself paying $40, $50, $60, whatever they charge a month. So definitely want to urge families to make sure they're calling the low cost, the customer service line for the low cost programs. And you'll find all of this information on our website. Again, we provide you this, everything that you just saw on these slides in terms of the specifications and the price points is what is on our website, as well as the customer service lines that pertain to the low cost offers. So we highly encourage you to do that. And then we also hear a lot from parents, and I think I've been monitoring the chat, about wanting to learn how to navigate the internet, how to open up an email account, how to help their students explore distance learning and all the wonderful resources that they're going to be gaining in their classroom, but also beyond. And so we hear parents, we hear, the need to build your digital literacy skills. Nowadays, it's almost impossible to not develop these skills for yourself, because as you're all finding out, you need them not only for your students and your children, but for yourself, to set up appointments, to sign up, to apply for jobs online, to communicate with your family and friends. And so we've put together this list of digital literacy resources that at every one-on we actually use and promote across our programs. We find these to be very useful, as well as options that are bilingual. So first and foremost, I want to definitely drive you to our website, everyoneon.org. Again, you'll find under the tab listed what we do, our Digital Learning Center. Within that Digital Learning Center, we provide actually access to free and accessible content that is on computer basics, email basics, financial literacy, telehealth. We've curated this for our customers, for you all. And then of course, there are, the big names that we all know, Microsoft and Google. Both of these companies actually have very wonderful and free content and videos that you all could view. They range from like a few minutes to over an hour. And again, they're free. I think that's the key thing here. They're free, they're highly vetted. They're oftentimes also in Spanish if you need them in Spanish. And so these could be wonderful resources for you so that you could start learning just the basics of the internet. Also want to encourage folks to check out these options in Spanish specifically that we've listed here. And also definitely want to encourage everyone to check out Common Sense Media. I'm a big fan of Common Sense Media. Some of you may already be familiar with them. They have wonderful repository of resources and specifically built something around the pandemic, and that's their Wide Open School platform. So if you visit their website, you'll find that they've actually curated specific resources for the different grades, K through 3, 5th through 7th, etc. And also those are available in Spanish. I do want to quickly share that even though we're a national organization, there's 2 of us that are based here in California, myself included. I'm in Los Angeles. We will be doing work in the Bay Area, specifically San Jose, in the coming months, and we'll be offering virtual digital literacy trainings to parents actually in the area. So if you live in San Jose or the adjacent Bay Area, We will definitely be communicating to you via Pique, we hope, to share when we will be having these virtual digital literacies workshops that will be focused around helping you navigate and take control of the internet for yourself. Thank you.
Norma, thank you so much. We will remind everyone that is on that we will be sharing the information with all of you. We will be sending the questions, the slide deck, and also posting on websites. So thank you so much. These are essentials. These are essential skills during this critical moment. And so thank you again for your partnership and for your support and the support that families that you provide. And now we could not end this conversation tonight without really talking about other critically important aspects that will impact funding for schools, for medical services, for roads, for housing. These are all critically important aspects of the work that many of us, we hope, have taken on. But one of our fearless leaders and here to talk about the census is our friend Mayra.
Thank you, Gloria. And you are absolutely correct. The census is currently underway, and we cannot stress enough the importance of participating and ensuring that we count every single one of our family members, and especially our children. Historically, children are the most undercounted group in the census, especially our youngest kids. In the last census, 1 million children under the age of 5 were missed. Not having an accurate count of children robs them, their families, and their communities of the resources they need for the very programs we know are critical to child health and child well-being. These are important programs that many of us are familiar with and that rely on the census count to determine the level of financial resources that are available for these programs in different states and in different local communities. These are programs like Head Start that was just talked about earlier this evening, the National School Lunch Program, knowing how important that program is to feed many of our kids here in California, childcare, Medi-Cal, the important program to provide health coverage for kids, WIC, which is incredibly important for young babies and moms, and especially critical to today's conversation, counting children in the census also means more funding for our schools. For the teachers and educators that are with us today, we've worked with partners to create family-friendly materials that you can distribute to students and their families through our Kids Count campaign. That includes flyers that you can electronically share with families to help them understand who needs to be counted. Because there are many questions that come up when we're filling out the census, and we want to make sure families have the information they need to fully participate. Next slide, please. And we know that because of COVID-19, the timelines have shifted and outreach efforts have transitioned to focus on this virtual environment. However, right now, you might know that census workers are going around neighborhoods, visiting households, and ensuring families complete the census questionnaire. It's completely part of the process, trying to make sure that everyone can be counted. But what we've learned so far, just based on a report from a couple of days ago, barely half of the children in households from areas that are historically undercounted have responded. Barely half of those households. We know that there's only a little bit of time left to fill out the census. We do not want to let our community, our children be erased. Please ensure that you count all the children living in your household, foster children, grandchildren, stepchildren. If they are living in your home, make sure to count them on that census. Just a few quick reminders. The filling out the census is safe and secure. Your information will not be shared with anyone. It's completely confidential. The deadline, it's just around the corner, just about 6 more weeks, September 30th, which is fast approaching. And then if you want to avoid a knock on our door from a census worker, please complete the census today and make sure that you and your family are counted. If you've already completed it, thank you. Please encourage your family members and friends to fill out that census as well. It only takes about 5-10 minutes to complete it, and you can fill it out using your phone. Or you can also visit on the web, my2020census.gov, or call 1-844-330-2020. We really are in this together. Families across the state and across the country should view filling out the census just the way we do our increased need to wash our hands right now. It's our civic duty. Let's work together in this final stretch to ensure we get the most accurate count of kids in the census. Next slide. Thank you. So finally, I know we're wrapping up. I just want to recognize that tonight's webinar is a strong reminder that information really is power. If you have questions on the census or health coverage, or you want to know your rights when it comes to accessing healthcare or your child's right to a safe and welcoming environment in school, please visit our websites. The children'spartnership.org offers a wealth of information, including links to many of our partners here tonight, as well as information on how policy and advocacy is connected to our discussion. Our All In for Health website is specifically created with our educator community in mind, and again, provides many of those resources that you can distribute to students and their families. Thank you for being with us. Gloria, right back to you.
Thank you so much, Mayra. And there's been so much that has been covered today, and all of it important. And so we will have a few minutes to answer some of the questions that both have been channeling in from our chat. So thank you everybody for putting in your questions in the chat and also through our Facebook Live feed. So thank you everybody for your insightful questions. And so several questions really came up around accessing internet services. And Norma, I will ask you to just one more time share with folks the resource. We will make sure that we post that. But there were a lot of questions. What if we don't have internet? What should we be doing about accessing internet services? Clearly in an online context for so many of the schools, you can see why parents have that as top of mind. So anything else you'd like to add or reinforce?
Yes, I'd like to, that's always a question, of course, just reinforce that there are multiple options here and resources for everyone, right? And we heard about them tonight. So one came from the California Department of Education, which is please contact your school first. The fact that our state has invested money in making sure that students have access. It's actually a right. They have to provide access and devices to students, as I understand it. So I would say first there, and next day or next hour, also look at our website, everyoneon.org, where you could find additional connectivity solutions for your household. Because you may be a household where that hotspot provided by the school is not enough. You need additional bandwidth, which is all of us. So go to our website, find out which option may be available in your respective community, and sign up. The other resource that you heard about tonight was actually about 211. Call 211 or go onto their website, also mobile friendly. They actually have funding from a California foundation, the California Emerging Technology Fund, to help people connect them to the respective internet providers in their area. So I think with those three options, you should be hopefully good to go. We totally recognize that in some communities, especially rural parts of the state, there is either limited or unavailable service. That is difficult, and that becomes a policy question. How do we make sure our state is investing and providers are investing in rural communities?
Wonderful. Thank you, Norma. You highlight again why the census is so critical, because if you're not counted, and if we don't count as communities or in individuals, policies reflect where investment and money goes. Another theme, so I'll ask my friend Nancy Maldonado to jump on. There were a few questions specifically about accessing childcare. So if I work and I have multiple children at home, what can I do with respect to ensuring that I have a way of taking care of children, of my kids, so I can go to work? Nancy?
Yeah, so I think it's obviously if it's someone who's an essential worker, there are resources available. The other thing to keep in mind is that a lot of the family child care homes are designed to care for younger children. So it is a matter of contacting maybe a family child care home that's in your area, or there are resources which we can absolutely send out of where you can look to find family child care homes that are located near you. And it really is a matter of contacting those child care providers and asking, one, if they have availability, and two, if they are able to care for children who are potentially a little bit older. And I think that's where the challenge has been, is that a lot of these family child care homes are equipped to care for younger children. But I know the family child care providers that we work with are being so adaptable and are trying to be so helpful and are really taking on this challenge of trying to care for older children and trying to work with them as they do their remote or online learning. So that's definitely a resource that we can send out. There is a link that can show you that you can access. You can put your zip code in and it lets you know all of the family child care homes that are near you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nancy. And again, this really underscores knowing what community assets are around you, which community-based organizations can be supporting you as a family holistically in this moment, and the creativity, I would say, and the willingness to support one another is there. It's making sure we ask for help and that we know that help will be there for all the families. One final question, and I will ask Dr. Burciaga and Maestra Escamilla to chime in. There's a question really about best practices with respect to how families can tap into resources that you have found to be particularly helpful. So I will start with Dr. Burciaga. I'll start with you, but if there's any guidance on your end about any best practices or ways in which you would suggest a parent could turn to for support about how they can use educational resources that you found particularly helpful.
I think the most important thing is communication with the school. Okay, and when I say this is let's not be shy. I know it's overwhelming, especially when, for example, each school district or each school is doing a different learning management system, right? That is new to distance learning. And when you have something new like that, there is immense training going on that since the middle of the summer, right? And Señora Escamilla knows exactly well, you know, of all the training that I'm sure she's been in. And so I think it starts there to gain all of those resources and help and even some of our universities, okay, our local universities are helping us and guiding us, because guess what, guys? A lot of these college students are sitting at home doing the same thing. And so they we're using and abusing them here, being in I guess what you call the metropolitan LA area. You know, you have the Cal State schools that are around us and the UC schools, and they're willing to help, and they're willing to help our communities. So I think start there for all the best practices. But to be honest with you, I think what's worked well with us is very simple. Let's treat this as if we were in class, in person. Show up on time, okay? Dress like you were to go to school, okay? Treat it as you were personally there. And that is half the battle. And I think that is where you get the most out of it, so.
Wonderful. Maestra Escamilla?
No, yeah, very important. Having that communication with the teacher. You need to be aware of what platforms they're also going to be using. Every school, and even every teacher may be using a different platform. So be aware of what platform your child's class is going to be using, especially if you have multiple children. You know, one class may be using Google Meet, another one may be using Zoom, another one is going to be using Microsoft Teams. I mean, there are so many out there. So just be aware what each of your children need, and then provide that support for whatever platform is being used, making sure they have their devices, making sure they have their internet, their hotspots, or just making sure it's everything is available for there. But yeah, communication with your teachers, with your school, with your administrators is so important. It's key.
Wonderful. I could not thank you enough, Maestra Escamilla, for your dedication, Dr. Burciaga, for your leadership and support. But most importantly, as we think about what we have shared with you today, is the resources and the willingness on our part to continue to support families and communities at this moment. I want to thank Superintendent Thurman. I want to thank Dr. Gregson from the California Department of Education. This would not be possible if it weren't for the strong leadership and partnership of everybody around this proverbial table, but specifically to our friends at the Children's Partnership, Mayra, and also want to remind you about the continued conversations that happen every Thursday at 5:30. And please stay tuned, please share it with other families. And we look forward to continuing the dialogue. Know that we are here to support each and every one of you. And with that, we encourage you to fill out the census, be counted, make sure your children are counted. And thank you, every single one of you, for making the time. And thank you to all our partners for being here and being supportive and holding up the hope that we will get through this together in partnership and in support with all our families. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.